Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi for Sunday, March 23rd, 2025, Shavua Tov. Here we go, we're in Sanhedrin 96. I'm going to back up to the end of 95 because we're in the middle of one. So it says, the Holy One, blessed be he, came and appeared to Sennacherib as an old man. God said to him, when you go to the kings of the east and the west, whose children you brought and killed, what will you say to them? Sennacherib said to the Holy One, blessed be he, that man, referring to himself, also sits overcome with the same fear as I do not know what to say to them. Sennacherib said to the Holy One, blessed be he, what else should we do? The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, go. And now we're in 96, and change your appearance so that they will not recognize you. Sennacherib asked him, with what shall I change it? God said to him, go bring me scissors, and I will shear you myself. Sennacherib asked, from where should I bring the scissors? The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, go to that house and bring them. He went and found ministering angels who came and appeared to Sennacherib as men, and the angels were grinding date pits. Sennacherib said to them, give me scissors. The ministering angel said to him, grind a seah of pits, and we will give it to you. He ground a seah of pits, and they gave him scissors. By the time he came back with the scissors, it grew dark. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to Sennacherib, go and bring fire to provide light. Sennacherib went and brought fire. While he was fanning it, the fire ignited his beard, and it spread and sheared his head and his beard. The sages said, this is the meaning of that which is written. And it shall also destroy the beard. Isaiah 7, verse 20. Rav Papa says that this is in accordance with the adage that people say, if you scorch a Gentile and it is pleasant for him, ignite a fire in his beard and you will never tire of ridiculing him. It means that if one does not protest when others ridicule him, they will escalate the ridicule. The adage is based upon this incitement involving Sennacherib. So Sennacherib went and found a beam from Noah's ark, from which he fashioned a god. And he said, this beam is a great God who delivered Noah from the flood. He said, if that man, referring to himself, goes and succeeds, he will sacrifice his two sons before you. His sons heard his commitment and killed him. This is the meaning of that which is written. It came to pass, as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch, his god, that Adram Melech and Sarezer, his sons, smote him with the sword, and they fled to Ararat. 2 Kings 19:37, where Noah's Ark had come to rest. The Gemara explains that this interpretation is based on the etymological similarity between Neser, the Hebrew word for beam, and Nisroch, the god that Sennacherib fashioned from a beam. And that this is not the only place where that story is accounted. So you could also find that in the extra biblical book, the book of Yasher, Sefer HaYasher. And it's very striking that sounds a lot like the Christian cross, but it is interesting that cross, it predates Christianity, and it's an Egyptian symbol as well. And on top of that, I'll just leave it at that. But there's a problematic verse somewhere. But anyway, apropos the war between the kings and apropos the war between the kings and Avraham mentioned above, the Gemara explains a verse, quote, and he paused as far as Dan, and he divided himself against them by night, or Lila, he and his servants, and smote them. Genesis 14, verses 14 to 15. The term by night, or Lila, appears out of place in this verse. Rabbi Yochanan says the angel that happened to come and assist Avraham in that war, Lila is his name, as it is written in Lila said, a man-child is brought forth, Job 3:3, indicating that there is an angel called Lila. And Rabbi Yitzhak Napacha says, God performed for him an act of night. That is, the stars in heaven waged war on his behalf, as it is stated. They fought from heaven, the stars and the courses fought against Sisera. Judges 5:20. Reish Lakish said, the statement of Rabbi Yitzhak Napacha, the smith is preferable to the statement of the son of the smith, Rabbi Yochanan. With regard to the previous verse, Quote, he pursued as far as Dan, Genesis 14:14. Rabbi Yochanan says, once that righteous person, Abraham, came to Dan, his strength weakened. He saw through the divine spirit that his descendants were destined to worship idols in Dan, as it is stated, and he fashioned 2 calves of gold, and he set one in Bethel and the other one he placed in Dan. 1 Kings 12:28-29. And even that wicked person, Nebuchadnezzar, did not prevail until he reached Dan, as it is stated. From Dan, the snorting of his horses is heard. Jeremiah 8:16. Rabbi Zera says, even though Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera sent a statement from Nitzivin, be vigilant with regard to treating with deference an elder who forgot his studies due to circumstances beyond his control, and be vigilant with regard to cutting the vulgar veins when slaughtering an animal in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and be vigilant with regard to treating with respect the children of ignoramuses, as far as some of them Torah will emerge. We inform them of a message like this matter. The verse states, right would you be, Lord, were I to contend with you, yet I will reason with you. Why does the path of the wicked prosper? Why are all who deal treacherously secure? You have planted them, they have taken root, they grow, they also bring forth fruit. Jeremiah 12:1-2. Why did they respond to Jeremiah from heaven? Quote, if you have run with pedestrians and they have wearied you, how can you contend with horses? And though in a land of peace you feel secure, how will you do in the wild country of the Jordan? Jeremiah 12:5. The Gemara interprets the verse according to the straightforward meaning. This is a parable of a person who said, I can run 3 parasangs before the horses in the swamplands. And I think a parasang is supposed to be the distance that the camp of Israel spanned out when they were in the desert. So I can run 3 parasangs before the horses in the swamplands. He encountered a pedestrian and ran before him for 3 mil on dry land and wearied. The people said to him, and if running before a pedestrian you grew so weary, then if you were to run before horses, all the more so would you become weary. And if after running 3 mil you grow so weary, then if you will run 3 parasangs 4 times that distance, all the more so will you become weary. And if after running on dry land you grew so weary, then if you were to run in the swamplands, all the more so would you become weary. The Gemara explains, so too Jeremiah, and if with regard to the reward of 4 paces that I compensated that wicked person, Nebuchadnezzar, who ran in my honor, you are astonished at its magnitude when I compensate Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who ran before me like horses throughout their lives. All the more so will their reward be great. This teaches the potency of even a minor mitzvah. That is the meaning of that which is written concerning the prophets. My heart within me is broken, all my bones shake. I am like a drunken man and like a man whom wine has overcome, due to the Lord and due to his sacred words. Jeremiah 23:9. The Gemara asks with regard to these 4 paces of Nebuchadnezzar, what is the incident to which the Gemara alludes? The Gemara answers that the incident is as it is written. At that time, Merodach Baladan, son of Baladan, king of Babylonia, sent a letter and a gift to Hezekiah, as he had heard that he had been ill and was recovered. Isaiah 39:1. The Gemara asks, due to the fact that Hezekiah had been ill and was recovered, he sent him a letter and a gift. The Gemara answers yes, and he did so in order to, quote, inquire of the wonder that was in the land. 2 Chronicles 32:31. As Rabbi Yochanan says, on that day that Hezekiah's father Ahaz died, daylight lasted 2 hours. 10 hours shorter than the standard day, so that the wicked Ahaz would be buried hurriedly without the pomp typically accorded kings. And when Hezekiah fell ill and recovered, the Holy One, blessed be he, restored those 10 hours to Hezekiah, as it is written, behold, I will return the shadow of the dial, which descended on the sundial of Ahaz, 10 degrees backward, so the sun returned 10 degrees, which it had gone down. Merodach said to his servants, why is this wonder that the day was extended? They said to him, Hezekiah fell ill and recovered, and the sun shone for him. Merodach said, there is a man like that, and I do not need to send him greetings? The ministers of Merodach wrote to Hezekiah, greetings to King Hezekiah, greetings to the city of Jerusalem, and greetings to the great God. Nebuchadnezzar was the scribe of Baladan. And at that time, he was not there. When he came there, he said to the other scribes, how did you write the king's message? They said to him, we wrote this, greetings to King Hezekiah, greetings to the city of Jerusalem, greetings to the great God, as we were commanded. Nebuchadnezzar said to the scribes, you called him the great God, and you wrote him at the end of the list of greetings? He said, Rather write this: greetings to the great God, greetings to the city of Yerushalayim, greetings to King Hezekiah. The scribe said to Nebuchadnezzar, the one who reads the letter, let him be the messenger. You gave the advice, you correct the text. Nebuchadnezzar pursued the messenger to take the letter from him and revise it. When he ran 4 paces, the angel Gavriel came and stopped his pursuit. Rabbi Yochanan says if Gavriel had not come and stopped his pursuit, there would have been no remedy for the enemies of the Jewish people, a euphemism for the Jewish people. Had Nebuchadnezzar succeeded in revising the letter, his reward would have been so great that he would have been able to destroy the Jewish people as he desired. And it's interesting because we read earlier in Sanhedrin, at the very beginning of Sanhedrin, that we find out that Gavriel is he intervened in the days of Solomon to plant a pillar of some sort in a river, in the sea, at the mouth of a river. And that's where the city of Rome was built upon, because it created, it's like the pillar, this iron pillar in the water. It created the turbulence that causes like sand to build up or something like that. And eventually there was a sandbar there or whatever, and the land grew, and the city of Rome was built upon this. And it happened in the days of Solomon because of his mistakes with, the horses of Egypt and the many wives and stuff like that. And basically it was planting, it was, the planting of the future enemy and punishment. So it says, the Gemara asks, what does it mean of Marodach Baladan, son of Baladan? If his name was Marodach, it was not Baladan. The sages say Baladan was a king, and his visage was transformed and became like that of a dog. His son was sitting on the throne in his stead, and when he would write a letter, he would write his name and the name of his father, King Baladan. That is the meaning of that which is written with regard to the honor accorded to Gentiles to their fathers. A son honors his father, and a servant his master. Malachi 1:6. The Gemara elaborates, the son honors his father is referring to that which we stated with regard to Baladan, and a servant his master is referring to a verse as it is written, and in the 5th month, on the 10th month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylonia, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, who stood before the king of Babylonia into Jerusalem, and he burned the house of the Lord and the house of the king. Jeremiah 52, verses 12 and 13. The Gemara asks, and did Nebuchadnezzar ascend to Yerushalayim? But isn't it written with regard to Zedekiah, and they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylonia, to Riblah, 2 Kings 25:6. And Rabbi Abahu says, this place called Riblah is a reference to Antioch. Apparently, Nebuchadnezzar was in Antioch, not in Yerushalayim. Rav Hista and Rav Yitzchak bar Avodimi resolved this apparent contradiction. One says, an image of Nebuchadnezzar's likeness was engraved on Nebuzaradan's chariot, and he regarded that image as though Nebuchadnezzar was actually there. And one says Nebuzaradan was in extreme fear of Nebuchadnezzar, and it was though Nebuzaradan was always standing before Nebuchadnezzar. This is an example of the honor of the servant to his master mentioned in this verse. The Gemara proceeds to discuss the role of Nebuzaradan in the destruction of the temple. And it's interesting because that kind of parallels our perspective of how the people at that time should have been respecting God. But instead of seeing Hashem as being there and fearing him like Nebuzaradan feared Nebuchadnezzar, the people turned to idols and immorality. And so the Gemara proceeds to discuss the role of Nebuzaradan in the destruction of the temple. Rava says Nebuchadnezzar sent to Nebuzaradan 300 mules laden with iron axes that cut iron. All of them were incapacitated in the attempt to breach one gate of Yerushalayim, as it is stated, and now they pound its curved work together with hatchet and with hammers. Psalm 74, verse 6. Nebuzaradan sought to return to Babylonia and said, I am afraid. I want to ensure that they will not do to me just as they did to Sennacherib, whose downfall was in Yerushalayim. A divine voice emerged and said, Leper, son of a leper, Nebuzaradan, take the leap as the time has arrived for the temple to be destroyed and the sanctuary to burn. One axe remained for him to use. He went and struck the gate with the dull end of the axe, and it opened, as it is stated. Quote, he became known as the yielder of axes upward in a thicket of trees. Psalm 74, verse 5. At the appropriate time, the gate was breached as though the axe were cutting trees. He was proceeding and killing until he reached the sanctuary. When he reached the sanctuary, he ignited a fire in it. The sanctuary rose, seeking to enter heaven so that it would not burn. They trod upon it from heaven and returned it to its place, as it is stated, the Lord has trodden the virgin, the daughter of Yehuda, as in a winepress. Lamentations 1:15. Nebuzaradan became haughty, taking pride in his conquest. A divine voice emerged and said to him, your haughtiness is unwarranted, as you killed a nation that was already dead. You burned a sanctuary that was already burned. You ground flour that was already ground. As it is stated with regard to Babylonia, take millstones and grind flour, uncover your locks, tuck up the train, uncover the leg, pass over rivers. Isaiah 47, verse 2. It was not stated grind wheat, but grind flour, indicating that all the destruction had already been wrought by God and the role played by the enemy was insignificant. When he reached the sanctuary, he saw the blood of Zechariah, the priest, boiling. It was not calmed since he was killed in the temple. See 2 Chronicles 24, 20-22. Nebuzaradan said to the priest there, what is this? Mahai. They said to him, it is the blood of offerings that was spilled. Nebuzaradan said to them, bring animals and I will test to determine if the blood of the animals is similar to the blood that is boiling. He slaughtered the animals and their blood was not similar to the boiling blood. Nebuzaradan said to the priest, reveal the source of that blood to me, and I will not comb your flesh with an iron comb. The priest said to Nebuzaradan, this blood is the blood of a priest and a prophet who prophesied for the Jewish people with regard to the destruction of Jerusalem and whom they killed. He said to the priest, I will pacify the blood so that the blood boiling will stop. He sought the sages and killed them over the blood, and its boiling did not cease. He brought school children and killed them over the blood, and its boiling did not cease. He brought young priests and killed them over the blood, and its boiling did not cease. He continued killing until he killed 940,000 people over the blood, and its boiling did not cease. Nebuzaradan approached the blood and said, Zechariah, Zechariah, the worthy among them I killed on your behalf. Is it satisfactory for you that I kill them all? Immediately the boiling ceased. Nebuzaradan contemplated repentance. He said, if they, who caused only one person to perish, gained atonement only after all this killing, then with regard to that man, referring to himself, that would be required for him to gain atonement. He deserted his army and dispatched a last will to his house and converted. The sages taught in the Baraita, Naaman the Armenian was a ger toshav, 2 Kings chapter 5, meaning that he accepted upon himself to refrain from idol worship but did not convert to Judaism. So ger toshav. So Nebuzaradan was a completely righteous convert among the descendants of Sisera. This is Judges chapter 4. Were those who studied Torah in Yerushalayim. Among the descendants of Sennacherib were those who taught Torah in public. The Gemara asks, who are they? The Gemara answers, they were Shemaiah and Naphtalion. And Shemaiah and Naphtalion were the sages who directly preceded Hillel and Shammai. So the Baraita continues, among the descendants of Haman, who were those who studied Torah in Bnei Barak. And even among the descendants of that wicked person, Nebuchadnezzar, were those whom the Holy One, blessed be He, sought to bring beneath the wings of the divine presence and have them convert. The ministering angel said before the Holy One, blessed be He, the Master of the universe, the one who destroyed your house and burned your sanctuary, will you introduce him beneath the wings of the divine presence? The Gemara explains, this is the meaning of that which is written, we have healed Babylonia, but she is not healed. Ula says this verse is in reference to Nebuchadnezzar, so Jeremiah 51 verse 9, none of whose children converted. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani says this is not a reference to a person, rather these are the rivers of Babylonia, interpreted as referring to the bitter salt waters of Babylonia. On a related note, the Gemara describes the events that led to the destruction of the temple. Ula says Ammon and Moab were bad neighbors of Yerushalayim. Once they heard the prophets who prophesied about the destruction of Yerushalayim, they sent to Nebuchadnezzar, emerge from your dwelling place and come and conquer them. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, I am afraid. I want to ensure that they will not do to me just as I did to my predecessors. Ammon and Moab sent to him what is written, for the Ish is not at home, meaning the man. He is gone on a long journey, Proverbs 7:19. And Ish is referring to no one but the Holy One, blessed be He. As it is stated, the Lord is an Ish of war. So that's Exodus 15 verse 3. Nebuchadnezzar sent to them I think it should say his response. He is in a nearby location and he will come. They sent to Nebuchadnezzar. He has gone on a journey from afar. Proverbs 7:19. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, They have righteous among them who will pray for mercy and bring him to return. Ammon and Moab sent to Nebuchadnezzar. He has taken a bundle of kesef with him. Proverbs 7:20. And kesef is reference to nothing other than the righteous, as it is stated. So I brought her to me for 15 pieces of kesef, and a core of barley, and a half core of barley. Hosea 3, verse 2. The inference is that God acquired the congregation of Israel due to the presence of righteous people among them. And Ammon and Moab sent a message to Nebuchadnezzar that God had already taken the righteous and they no longer offered protection. Nebuchadnezzar sent to them, Perhaps the wicked will repent and become righteous, and they will pray for mercy, and they will bring him to return. Ammon and Moab sent to Nebuchadnezzar, God already designated the time of their redemption, as it is stated, quote, On the day of the Keseh, he will come home. Proverbs 7:20. And Keseh is referring to nothing other than a designated time, as it is stated, sound a shofar at the new moon, at the Keseh on the day of our feast. Psalms 81 verse 4. Since there is a time designated for redemption, until then you can do as you please. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, It is winter now, and I cannot come and conquer Yerushalayim due to the snow and rain. Ammon and Moab sent to him, Come on the peaks of mountains, where the rain does not pool. As it is stated, send the lamb to the ruler of the land from the peaks of the wilderness, to the mounts of the daughter of Zion. Isaiah 16 verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar sent to them, If I come to Yerushalayim, I have no place to dwell, while laying siege to the city. Ammon and Moab sent to him, The burial caves are superior to your palaces, and you can clear the caves and dwell there, as it is written, At that time, says the Lord, they shall remove the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of the princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem from their graves, and they shall spread them before the sun and the moon, and all the hosts of heaven whom they have loved, and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked. Jeremiah chapter 8, verses 1 and 2. Ultimately, Nebuchadnezzar came to conquer Judea and remove the corpses to make room for his army. Rab Nachman said to Rabbi Yitzchak, Have you heard when the son of giants, or Bar Nifle, will come? Rabbi Yitzchak said to him, Who is the son of giants? Rav Nachman said to him, He is Mashiach. Rabbi Yitzchak asked him, Do you call the Messiah the son of giants? Rabbi Nachman said to him, Yes, as it is written, On that day I will establish, now I'll just continue, the tabernacle of David that is fallen, or Hanophilet. Amos 9:11. And that's the end. I jumped into the next daf just a little bit, but that's it for today. Thank you.